The glass shattered before anyone heard him breathe. It was not loud at first, just a thin crack under too much pressure. The kind of sound that makes a few heads turn, then everyone. Evan Mercer stood frozen beside the dessert table, a paper plate bending slowly in his hand. Frosting smeared across his thumb where the cake had slipped. Across the backyard, under a string of warm patio lights, his ex-wife laughed. Claire Mercer looked radiant in a pale blue dress that probably cost more than his car payment. Friends surrounded her. Wine glasses, soft music. The smell of grilled salmon drifting through the air. It was her birthday, and he almost had not come. Evan swallowed hard and tried to steady his breathing. The invitation had been polite, too polite, the kind that made it hard to say no without looking bitter. Co-parent harmony, she had called it. For Lily. Always for Lily. He shifted his weight, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked. His button-down shirt was clean, but a little too tight at the shoulders now. His shoes still carried the faint dust from the warehouse lot, no matter how much he had wiped them. He told himself it did not matter. He was here for his daughter. Across the yard, 7-year-old Lily Mercer darted between adults with a paper crown sliding sideways on her head. She spotted him and lit up instantly. That smile hit him straight in the chest. He forced one back. Everything was fine. Everything was controlled. Everything was... A hand touched his shoulder. Not Claire. Not Lily. Someone else. Evan turned. The man standing behind him did not belong to this party. Mid-40s maybe, expensive dark blazer. Calm eyes that studied Evan a little too carefully. The kind of quiet confidence that did not need to be announced. The stranger gave a small, polite smile. Then he said softly, "I just wanted to thank you for raising my son." The plate slipped from Evan's hand. Frosted cake hit the patio stones with a wet, ugly sound. For a second, Evan did not process the words. His brain tried to reject them. Like a sentence in the wrong language, then they landed. Hard. "I just wanted to thank you for raising my son." Heat flooded up Evan's neck. He stared at the man, waiting for the correction. The laugh. The apology. It did not come. Instead, the stranger's expression stayed almost gentle, like this was a normal conversation, like Evan was supposed to understand. Evan's voice came out rough. "I think you've got the wrong guy." The man tilted his head slightly. "Do I?" Not a question, a statement. Something cold slid into Evan's stomach. Behind them, someone called Claire's name. Music shifted, glasses clinked. The party kept moving like nothing had just cracked open. Evan lowered his voice. "Who are you?" The man extended his hand, calm and measured. Daniel Holt. The name meant nothing. At least, it was supposed to mean nothing. Evan did not take the hand. Daniel did not seem offended. He simply lowered it again, studying Evan's face with unsettling patience. "I have been meaning to meet you for a long time," Daniel said quietly. Evan's pulse started to pound in his ears. Something was wrong, deep wrong. He glanced across the yard toward Lily, still laughing, still safe, still his little girl. He forced his jaw tight. "You need to explain what you just said." Daniel's gaze flickered briefly toward Claire across the yard. Just for a second. But Evan saw it, and his stomach dropped. When Daniel spoke again, his voice was careful, almost considerate. "I did not come here to make a scene." Too late. Evan's hands were already starting to shake. "Then why are you here?" A small pause. Then the sentence that split something open inside Evan's chest. "Because I think you deserve to know the truth." Across the yard, Claire turned. For the first time that night, her eyes locked onto Evan, and the color drained from her face. Claire did not move toward him right away. That was the first thing Evan noticed. Not anger, not confusion, distance. She stayed near the center table, one hand still wrapped around a wine glass, her smile frozen in place a second too long for it to be natural. The soft music kept playing. Someone nearby laughed at a joke that suddenly sounded too loud in Evan's ears. Daniel stood beside him like none of it was strange, like he had just commented on the weather. Evan felt heat crawling up the back of his neck. Across the yard, Lily tugged at a cluster of balloons, completely unaware that something invisible had just shifted under her feet. Evan leaned closer to Daniel, voice tight and low. "You need to stop talking in riddles." Daniel watched him carefully. "I am not trying to upset you." That made something ugly twist in Evan's chest. Too late. Claire finally started walking toward them. Not fast, not slow, controlled. The kind of walk she used in court hallways and school meetings. The one that always made Evan feel like he was already losing an argument he had not even started yet. Up close, her makeup was perfect. Her eyes were not. For a brief second, something raw flickered there. Then it was gone. Claire's voice came out smooth, but just slightly thinner than usual. "Evan, you made it." Like this was normal. Like a stranger had not just dropped a bomb into the middle of her backyard. Evan stared at her. "Yeah, I made it." Silence pressed in around the three of them. Daniel gave Claire a small, polite nod. "Claire." Her fingers tightened around the wine glass. "You were not supposed to come tonight." There it was. Not, "Who are you?" Not, "What are you doing?" You were not supposed to come. Evan felt something cold slide deeper into his stomach. Daniel's tone stayed calm. "We agreed I would stay away from the house. We did not discuss the party." A thin crack appeared in Claire's composure. Evan caught it. His voice dropped, rougher now. "Claire." She did not look at him. That hurt more than it should have. Claire finally set the wine glass down on a nearby table with careful precision. When she spoke again, her voice had that practiced patience he remembered from their worst years. "This is not the place for whatever conversation you think you need to have." Daniel did not move. "With respect, I think it is long overdue." The air between them tightened. Evan's heartbeat was now loud enough to feel in his throat. He looked from Daniel to Claire. Back to Daniel, back to Claire. "Say it clearly," Evan said, voice starting to crack despite his effort to control it. "What exactly are you thanking me for?" Claire's eyes finally snapped to his. For the first time tonight, real panic flashed there, sharp, uncontrolled. It lasted less than a second. But Evan saw it, and once seen, it could not be unseen. Daniel spoke gently, for taking care of Lily. The world tilted. Evan actually swayed a little on his feet, the music, the lights, the soft summer air. All of it suddenly felt wrong against his skin. His voice came out hoarse. "She is my daughter." Daniel did not argue. He just held Evan's gaze with a quiet steadiness that made something inside Evan start to unravel. "I know what you were told," Daniel said. Claire stepped forward sharply. Enough, too sharp. A couple of nearby guests glanced over. Claire lowered her voice fast, but the damage was already there. "We are not doing this here." Evan turned slowly toward her. His chest was rising too fast now. "Doing what?" Claire's jaw tightened. "You are overreacting." That word, overreacting, it hit every old bruise inside him. Evan let out a short, broken breath. "Tell me I am wrong then." Claire opened her mouth. Closed it. For the first time in the entire time he had known her, Claire Mercer did not have an immediate answer. Something inside Evan dropped. Hard. Behind them, Lily's small voice floated across the yard. "Daddy, watch this." Evan's head turned automatically. Lily spun in a messy circle, paper crown slipping further over one eye, completely proud of herself. Pure. Happy. Trusting. Evan's vision blurred for half a second. When he looked back at Claire, his voice was quieter, more dangerous. Claire. What is he talking about? Claire's shoulders rose slowly with a controlled breath. Then she said the sentence that made Evan's stomach turn cold. We'll talk later. Not denial, not anger, not confusion. Later. Daniel's eyes softened slightly, and that was the moment Evan knew. Something was very, very wrong. The party did not stop. That was what made it worse. Someone turned the music up a little. Ice clinked into fresh glasses. A woman near the grill laughed too loudly at something her husband said. Life kept moving, while Evan felt like the ground under his feet had started to tilt. Claire reached for his arm, fingers light but urgent. Evan, not here. He pulled his arm back before he even thought about it. The movement was small, but not small enough. Two guests near the patio table glanced over. Claire's smile flickered back on, thin and brittle. You are making a scene, she whispered. The words landed like sandpaper on an open wound. Evan let out a slow breath through his nose, trying to hold himself together. His chest felt tight, too tight. Across the yard, Lily was now crouched near the grass, carefully lining up cupcakes like they were soldiers, completely absorbed, completely unaware. Evan lowered his voice. Then fix it. Claire's jaw tightened. There is nothing to fix. Daniel spoke gently beside them. Claire. Just her name. But it landed heavy. Claire's head snapped toward him, and for the first time the control in her posture slipped. Not much, just enough that someone paying attention would notice. Evan was paying attention. Always had been. Daniel reached slowly into the inside pocket of his blazer. Claire's voice dropped, sharp. Do not. Too late. Daniel pulled out a slim leather wallet. Not flashy, not rushed. Every movement calm and deliberate. Evan felt his pulse spike. What are you doing? Daniel did not answer right away. Instead, he slid a single folded paper free and held it carefully between two fingers. I did not come here to hurt anyone, Daniel said quietly. Claire's breathing had changed. Faster now. Evan heard it, felt it. That cold thing in his stomach spread wider. Then Daniel turned to the paper toward Evan. Hospital discharge summary, 7 years ago. Evan did not want to look. His eyes moved anyway. Mother, Claire Mercer, infant male, male. The word did not register at first. His brain tried to reject it. Lily was... Evan blinked hard. That is wrong, he said automatically, but his voice had already started to thin. Claire stepped forward fast, hand half reaching for the paper. That document is out of context, not fake, not wrong. Out of context. Evan's fingers felt numb. He looked again. Infant male, date of birth. It matched, perfectly. His mouth went dry. That is a typo, he forced out. No one answered. Around them, the party noise seemed to fade like someone had slowly turned down the world. Daniel's voice stayed calm. There is more. Claire's control cracked. Enough, Daniel. Too sharp, too fast. A few more heads turned now. Evan felt heat crawl up his neck. Public. This was becoming public. His worst instinct started whispering. Say something. Fix this. Laugh it off. But his body would not move. Daniel reached into the wallet again and this time pulled out a small photo, worn at the edges. Handled many times. He did not hand it over immediately. Instead, he held it where only Evan could see. A newborn, hospital blanket, tiny knit cap. Evan's stomach dropped so fast it almost hurt, because he knew that blanket. He remembered the color. He remembered standing in that hospital room, exhausted and terrified and proud all at the same time. Except, in the photo, Claire was turned slightly away, and the name on the bassinet card was not Lily. Evan's vision blurred. His voice came out barely above a breath. What did you do? Claire's face went completely pale. Claire did not answer him. For a long second, she just stood there, perfectly still, like if she did not move, the moment might slide past her. It did not. Evan felt something inside his chest start to fray. Not snap, not explode. Fray, slow and ugly. He stepped closer to her. His voice dropped lower. Rougher. What did you do, Claire? Her eyes flicked toward the guests nearby, still watching, still pretending not to watch. Claire straightened her shoulders, and the familiar composure slid back into place like armor. Lower your voice, she said quietly. That almost made him laugh. Almost. Evan let out a short breath that shook on the way out. You think this is about volume. Daniel shifted slightly beside them. Not interrupting, but not leaving either. A witness. That realization made Claire's jaw tighten. This is not the time, she said. Not the place, not the time, not the place. Never the truth. Evan's hands curled slowly at his sides. Then give me one good reason, he said, voice unsteady now despite his effort, why a stranger is walking into your backyard thanking me for raising his son. The word hung there. Son. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Just once. It lasted less than a heartbeat, but it was enough. Evan felt the last piece of denial inside him crack. Behind them, a woman near the patio leaned closer to her friend, whispering. The party was starting to feel it now, the shift. Claire opened her eyes again and forced her voice steady. You are spiraling. There is an explanation. Explanation. Not denial. Evan took another step forward. Too close now for polite distance, then start explaining. Her throat moved as she swallowed. Not here, Evan. His control slipped, just a little. Where then? Because right now, you have exactly 10 seconds before I stop caring who is watching. The edge in his voice finally broke through the careful calm she had been trying to maintain. Claire's gaze darted briefly toward Lily across the yard, still crouched in the grass, still lining up cupcakes, still trusting the world to make sense. Claire lowered her voice further. You are going to scare her? That hit. Hard. Evan's chest tightened painfully. For a second, real doubt flickered across his face, and Claire saw it. She leaned in slightly, pressing the advantage she had used for years. We need to be adults about this. Adults? The word scraped. Evan's voice dropped to a near whisper. I have been an adult for 7 years. The rawness in that sentence slipped out before he could stop it. It hung between them. Heavy. Ugly. Too honest. Claire's expression flickered again, guilt, quick, gone. Daniel spoke quietly. Evan deserves clarity. Claire's head snapped toward him. You do not get to decide what he deserves. The calm mask was cracking now. Evan saw it clearly, and something inside him hardened. He turned slowly back to Claire. His voice was steadier now. Colder. Then you decide. Right now. Say it clearly. Is there anything about Lily's birth that you have not told me? Silence. Not a second. Not 2. Long enough that the music from the patio speakers filled the space between them. Long enough that someone nearby stopped pretending not to listen. Claire's lips parted. Closed. Her fingers trembled once against the side of her dress. Tiny, but visible. Evan felt the final thread inside his chest pull tight. Say it, he pressed quietly. Claire finally spoke, each word careful, measured, controlled. I never lied about Lily being your daughter. Relief tried to rise. It did not make it far, because she had not actually answered the question. Evan's stomach twisted. That was not what I asked. Claire's composure slipped for real this time. Just a hair. But enough. Daniel's voice came gently. Claire, you are making this worse. She turned on him sharply. I did what I had to do. There it was. Not denial, not confusion. Justification. The word slammed into Evan's chest like a physical hit. His voice dropped to something almost unrecognizable. What did you do? Claire's eyes finally met his fully, and for the first time all night, There was no control left in them. Only fear. Claire's fear did not explode. It leaked. Slow. Controlled. The way someone tries to hold water in a cracked glass. Evan saw it, and once he saw it, he could not stop seeing it. His chest felt tight, like something heavy had been set on top of his lungs. Say it. He pressed again. Quieter now, but far more dangerous. Claire's eyes flicked past him. Guests, witnesses, damage control running behind her eyes at full speed. When she spoke, her voice dropped into that careful tone she used in court mediation rooms. You are misunderstanding what is happening. The sentence landed flat. Wrong. Evan shook his head slowly. No. His voice wavered despite him. I think I am finally starting to understand. Behind them, someone shifted a chair, too loud, too close. Daniel remained where he was, silent now, but present enough to make everything feel exposed. Claire stepped closer to Evan, lowering her voice further. We can talk about this privately. There it was again, later. Privately, controlled. Evan let out a breath that trembled on the way out. You had 7 years for private. That hit harder than he intended. Claire flinched. Small, but real. Across the yard, Lily's laughter rang out again as one of the balloons slipped free and floated upward into the evening sky. Evan's eyes followed it automatically. That tiny reflex almost broke him. When he looked back at Claire, something inside him had shifted. Less panic now. More cold. Daniel spoke quietly into the space. The blood test was inconclusive at birth. Claire's head snapped toward him. Daniel, too sharp, too late. Evan's stomach dropped. Blood test. The words echoed strangely in his head, slow, heavy. He turned back to Claire. What blood test? Claire's lips pressed together, tight. Evan felt the first real crack of anger push through the fog. What blood test, Claire? Her voice came out thin. It was routine. Daniel's expression did not change. It was not routine, he said gently. Evan's pulse began to pound again. Harder now, faster. He looked between them. Something ugly and desperate started to rise in his chest. Claire finally exhaled slowly, like someone stepping toward a cliff they had been avoiding for years. When Lily was born, there was a mix-up concern at the hospital, each word careful, measured, but the damage was already spreading. Evan stared at her, not breathing, not moving. Claire continued, quieter now. They flagged the blood type results, said it did not fully align at first. The world narrowed. Just her voice. Just those words. Evan's hands had started to shake again, and what did they say after that? Claire hesitated. Too long. Evan's voice dropped. Claire. Her next words came out barely above a whisper. They said further testing would be needed. Needed, not done. Evan felt the air leave his lungs in a slow, painful pull. Did you do it? Silence. That was his answer. Heat rushed up his spine. His voice cracked for the first time. Claire. Did you do it? Claire's composure finally fractured, just enough for the truth to slip through the cracks. I was told it was likely a lab error. Likely, not confirmed, not certain. Likely. Evan actually swayed on his feet. For 7 years. 7 years of bedtime stories, of scraped knees, of school drop-offs in the rain, of late-night fevers and tiny hands gripping his shirt in the dark. His voice came out hollow. You never checked. Claire's eyes filled. Not with full tears, but close. I made the decision that protected our family. Protected. The word hit like a slap. Evan let out a broken breath. Across the yard, someone turned the music down slightly. Too many people were noticing now. Too many ears turning toward the quiet storm unfolding near the dessert table. Daniel's voice came softly. There is one more thing he needs to know. Claire closed her eyes, like she already knew what was coming, and could not stop it. Claire did not open her eyes right away. For a moment, she just stood there, shoulders tight, breathing shallow, like if she stayed very still, the night might rewind itself. It did not. Evan felt every second stretch thin. "Say it," he whispered. Daniel did not rush. That was the worst part. He spoke with the same calm tone he had used since the beginning, the kind that made everything feel deliberate instead of emotional. "I requested a private DNA confirmation last year." The words landed like a quiet explosion. Evan blinked. Once. Twice. His brain lagged behind the sentence like it was refusing to process. Claire's eyes finally opened. Pure panic now. "Daniel, do not." Too late. Daniel's gaze stayed on Evan. "I did not want to disrupt her life. Her, not them, not the family. Her life." Evan felt something twist painfully in his chest. His voice came out thin. What did it say? The backyard had gone subtly wrong. Music still played, but softer now. Conversations nearby had thinned into careful half-whispers. People were listening. Trying not to look like they were listening. Claire stepped forward fast. "This is not appropriate." Her hand reached for Daniel's arm. He did not pull away, but he did not stop either. The result confirmed biological probability at 99.9%. The world tilted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough that Evan's balance shifted half an inch too far to the left. His hand reached blindly for the edge of the dessert table. Missed, found it again, 99.9%. His ears rang. Someone near the grill stopped talking completely. Claire's voice cracked for the first time. That test was never verified through court. Too fast, too defensive. Evan's head turned slowly toward her. His eyes looked different now, not confused, not panicked, hurt, deep. 7 years deep. "You knew there was a chance," he said quietly. Claire swallowed. "I knew there was uncertainty, careful wording, legal wording." Evan let out a hollow breath. "You knew." It was not a question. Across the yard, Lily finally noticed the strange energy in the air. She stood slowly from the grass, paper crown crooked, eyes moving between the adults with growing confusion. Evan saw her, and something inside him cracked wide open. His voice dropped lower, rougher. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" Claire's composure was slipping in visible pieces now. "I was trying to protect stability. The word sounded obscene in the middle of the backyard. Daniel spoke gently. "I never intended to reveal this publicly." Claire shot him a look sharp enough to cut glass. "Then you should not have come." The edge in her voice carried. A couple standing near the patio went very still. Evan straightened slowly. His hands had stopped shaking. That scared him more than the shaking, because the numbness was worse. He looked directly at Claire. All this time. Late-night homework, doctor visits, parent-teacher meetings. His voice thinned on the last words. "You watched me do all of that." Claire's eyes filled properly now. Not performance, not controlled, real. I thought it was the kinder choice. Kinder. The word broke something. Evan let out a sharp breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Kinder for who? Claire did not answer. She did not have one. Behind them, Lily's small voice floated across the yard. "Mom. Dad." The word "dad" hit like a knife, sliding slowly under the ribs. Evan closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them again, something inside him had hardened into a shape that was no longer just pain. It was decision forming. Daniel reached slowly into his wallet again. "There's documentation," he said quietly. Claire's head snapped toward him in pure alarm. "Do not," but Evan's voice came out cold and steady. "Let him." And for the first time that night, the backyard went completely, unmistakably quiet. The silence in the backyard changed shape. It was no longer polite, no longer accidental. It was the heavy kind that spreads when too many people realize something real is happening and no one wants to be the first to look away. Evan stood very still. For the first time all night, his hands were not shaking. That scared him more than anything else. Daniel moved slowly, deliberately, like a man handling something fragile and dangerous at the same time. From his wallet, he removed a thin, sealed envelope, cream-colored, edges slightly worn. Not new, not prepared for tonight. Prepared long before. Claire's voice came out sharp and low. "Daniel, stop." He did not. Instead, he held the envelope where Evan could see the printed lab header at the top. Genetic confirmation report. Evan's stomach turned. The words looked too clinical, too clean, for something that messy. Around them, the air felt thick. A woman near the patio table had stopped pretending to check her phone. A man by the grill stood frozen with a pair of tongs halfway in the air. No one was speaking now. Not really. Evan's voice came out quiet. "Open it." Claire stepped forward fast. "Evan, do not do this here." Her hand reached toward his wrist. He pulled back gently but firmly. Not angry, not loud, just done. 7 years ago would have been here, he said. The sentence landed harder than shouting ever could. Claire froze. Daniel carefully slid the report halfway out of the envelope, but did not yet release it. "I want to be clear," he said softly. "I never intended to replace anyone in her life. Her life, again, not ours." Evan noticed every word, every shift. His voice was steady now, but something raw lived underneath it. "Just show me." Daniel turned the page fully toward him. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Probability of biological paternity, 99.9%. Evan stared. The world did not spin, did not explode. It just hollowed, like someone had quietly removed the center support beam from inside his chest. Behind him, someone whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath. Claire heard it. Her composure finally cracked in a visible way. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Her breathing lost rhythm. Evan did not look at her. Not yet. His eyes stayed on the page. 7 years of memories started rising whether he wanted them to or not. Tiny socks in the laundry. Bedtime stories read in a tired voice. First day of kindergarten, with the Lily gripping his hand too tight. The night she had a fever and would not sleep unless he stayed beside her. His voice came out rough. "You knew." Claire's answer came almost immediately. "I suspected." Careful. Still careful. Evan finally lifted his eyes to her. There was nothing careful left in his expression now. "You knew enough to stay quiet." That one hit. Claire's lips parted. No sound came out. Across the yard, Lily had taken a few small steps closer, confusion written openly across her face now. The paper crown had slipped completely sideways. "Mom." Her voice was small, uncertain. It cut through everything. Evan's chest tightened painfully. For a second, his composure wavered. Claire saw it and moved quickly, reaching toward Lily. "Sweetheart, go play near the table, okay? Too fast, too bright." Lily did not move. Her eyes stayed locked on Evan. And that almost broke him. Daniel lowered his voice. "I never came forward because she already had a father who showed up." The sentence landed with quiet weight. Not cruel, not triumphant, just factual. And somehow that made it worse. Evan swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and uneven. 7 years. No one answered. The patio lights hummed softly overhead. A glass shifted somewhere in the background. Evan looked down at the report one last time, then back at Claire. His next words came out steady. "Too steady. You are going to tell me everything." Claire's face had gone completely pale. Because for the first time that night, she understood something had changed. Evan Mercer was no longer asking. Claire had always been good at reading rooms, at sensing when tension could still be redirected, managed, softened. But standing there under the patio lights, watching Evan's face settle into something she had not seen before, she knew That window was closing. Fast. Evan folded the edge of the report slowly, carefully, like his hands needed something precise to do while the rest of him tried not to come apart. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled. We are not doing this in pieces anymore. No heat, no shouting. That made it worse. Claire's throat moved. Evan... He did not look at her. Not yet. Instead, his eyes moved briefly across the yard. Not at the guests, not at Daniel. At Lily. She was still standing halfway between the cupcake table and the patio, small shoulders slightly hunched, confusion plain on her face. The paper crown had slipped completely over one eyebrow. Waiting, watching, trusting. Something inside Evan twisted hard enough to make his ribs ache. When he finally turned back to Claire, his voice had dropped another degree colder. You had a test, you had doubt, and you made a decision. Each sentence landed slow and deliberate. Claire tried to steady her breathing. It was not that simple. Evan's jaw tightened. Then make it simple. A long pause stretched between them. The party had fully thinned into background noise now. People were pretending to talk again, but the rhythm was wrong. Too careful, too aware. Claire finally exhaled slowly. When Lily was born, they flagged the blood mismatch. You already said that. His tone was flat. Claire pressed on, words starting to come faster now, like something long contained was pushing to the surface. They told me sometimes it happens. Lab contamination, sample mix-ups. I was exhausted. You were exhausted. We had a newborn who needed stability, not legal chaos. Evan's eyes did not soften. You skipped the part where you chose not to confirm. Claire's composure flickered. I chose what protected her. Her. The word echoed again. Evan noticed every time she said it. His voice came quieter. Did you ever plan to tell me if the second test came back different? Claire hesitated. There it was. That hesitation. Small, but final. Evan let out a slow breath that sounded almost like something giving way inside his chest. Across the yard, Lily shifted her weight nervously. Dad. The word came softer this time. Uncertain. Like she was testing whether it still fit. Evan's control slipped for half a second. His eyes closed briefly. When he opened them again, something inside him had hardened into something clearer. Not just hurt. Decision. He crouched down slowly, lowering himself to Lily's level. Every adult in the backyard went very still. Claire's voice sharpened immediately. Evan, do not pull her into this. He ignored her. Lily took a few small steps closer until she stood right in front of him. Up close, her eyes looked glossy with confusion she did not have words for yet. Evan forced his voice gentle. Hey, Bug. Her bottom lip trembled slightly. Why is everyone being weird? The simple honesty of it nearly broke him. For a second, the polished calm cracked and something raw flashed across his face. Ugly. Human. Real. He swallowed hard before answering. Sometimes, grown-ups have big conversations at the wrong time. Lily studied him carefully, like she always did when she sensed something was off. Are you mad? The question landed deep. Evan shook his head slowly. No, not at you. That part came out without hesitation, without doubt. Behind him, Claire's breathing had turned uneven. Daniel stood silent, watching with a kind of restrained tension now, because this was the moment no report could control. Evan reached out and gently straightened Lily's crooked paper crown. Small, automatic, familiar. His hand lingered just a second too long. Then he stood, slowly, deliberately. When he turned back to Claire, his voice was calm again, but colder than before. You are going to explain exactly what happened after that hospital call. Claire's shoulders rose with a tight breath. Evan, not later, not privately, not carefully packaged, right now. The finality in his tone landed. Guests nearby had fully stopped pretending now. Conversations had faded into quiet clusters. The music still played, but no one was listening to it. Claire looked around once, calculating, cornered. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its smooth polish. After the hospital flagged the mismatch, I spoke with the consultant. Evan's eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of consultant? Claire hesitated. Legal. The word dropped heavy into the night air. Something cold slid deeper into Evan's chest. And what did your legal consultant tell you to do? Claire's voice came out thinner now. They said, without a confirmed second test, there was no immediate obligation to disrupt established parentage. Established parentage. Clinical, clean, carefully chosen. Evan let out a slow breath through his nose. 7 years. He said it quietly, but the weight of it pressed into everyone standing within earshot. Daniel finally spoke again, softer now. I never wanted it to unfold like this. Evan did not look at him. His gaze stayed locked on Claire. It already did. Claire's eyes filled fully now. Not controlled, not polished, real, because she could finally see it. The moment had turned, and there was no putting it back. The shift in the backyard was no longer subtle. People were not pretending anymore. Voices had dropped into low murmurs. Someone near the patio quietly guided their kids towards the far end of the yard. A glass sat forgotten on the edge of the dessert table, melting ice slowly sliding down the side. Claire felt every pair of eyes. Evan felt none of them. He was still looking at her, waiting. The calm on his face now was not pause. It was the kind of stillness that comes after something inside a person finally stops fighting reality. Claire's voice came out uneven. I was trying to prevent unnecessary damage. The word damage hung in the air like smoke. Evan's brow tightened slightly. Unnecessary for who? Claire did not answer, because there was no version of that sentence that did not make her sound exactly like what the room was starting to suspect. Behind them, Lily had moved closer to the patio steps, not fully approaching again, but no longer playing either. Her small fingers twisted the edge of her party dress, watching, listening. Evan saw her from the corner of his eye, and something inside him made a quiet decision. When he spoke again, his voice was level. Did anyone else know? Claire's head lifted slightly. What? Before tonight, did anyone else know? The directness of it made her flinch. Just for a second. Evan saw that too. His chest tightened. Claire finally shook her head once. No, the answer came too fast, too clean. Daniel spoke gently. Your attorney was aware. Claire's head snapped toward him with open anger now. That was confidential. The word attorney rippled through the nearby guests like a dropped stone in water. Evan exhaled slowly. Of course. Not loud, not bitter, just tired. 7 years of quiet tired. He rubbed a hand briefly over his face. When it dropped again, the raw edge was back. You let me build my entire life around a maybe. Claire's eyes filled again. It was not a maybe. Evan's gaze sharpened. 99.9% sounds pretty certain to me. She had no answer for that. The silence stretched, heavy. Across the yard, Lily finally took another hesitant step forward. Dad, are you coming back inside? The simple question cut through everything like glass. Evan's chest hitched. For the first time since the report came out, his control wavered in a visible way. Ugly emotion flashed across his face. Not neat, not controlled. The kind of crack that comes when a person is running out of places to store the hurt. Claire saw it. Her voice softened automatically. Evan, please. But the word please landed too late, because something had already shifted inside him. He crouched again slightly, turning his head just enough to meet Lily's eyes. Hey. His voice gentled on instinct. I am right here. Lily studied him carefully. the way kids do when they know something big is happening but no one is explaining it properly. Okay. She did not move away. That told him everything. Evan stood again slowly. When he turned back to Claire, the last traces of hesitation were gone. His voice came out steady. Here is what is going to happen. The sentence changed the air. Claire's breath caught, because she heard it too. Control, clear, unmistakable. Evan continued. You are going to send me every document related to that hospital call, every consultation, every note, every email. Each word landed like a measured step forward. Claire's lips parted. Evan. He did not raise his voice, but the firmness underneath it was new. You had 7 years to manage this quietly. I'm done managing it blindly. The nearby guests had gone completely still again. No one was even pretending now. Claire's composure finally cracked wide enough to show the fear underneath. And what exactly are you planning to do? Evan held her gaze. For the first time all night, there was no visible panic left in him, just something colder, clearer. I am going to make sure the next 7 years are based on facts, not guesses. The words settled heavily into the warm night air. Behind him, Daniel watched in silence, because the balance of the night had officially turned, and everyone standing in that backyard could feel it. Claire had spent most of her adult life staying one step ahead of uncomfortable moments. She managed schedules, managed conversations, managed outcomes. But standing there under the patio lights, watching Evan's face settle into something she could no longer redirect, she understood the shift had already happened. And she was no longer driving it. The quiet in the backyard had turned heavy. People were not whispering anymore. They were simply listening. Evan did not move closer, did not raise his voice. That calm was what made Claire's chest tighten. She tried one last time. Evan, we can handle this privately. There's no reason to escalate. He cut her off gently. You already decided private. Not sharp, not loud, just final. Claire's mouth closed. Across the yard, Lily hovered near the patio step, uncertain but still watching him with that same open trust that had followed him for 7 years. Evan saw her again, and something in his chest twisted painfully. When he spoke next, his voice softened just a fraction. This is not about embarrassing you. Claire flinched anyway, because both of them knew that was only partly true. Evan continued. This is about the fact that I built my life around information you chose not to confirm. Each word careful, measured. Claire's breathing had lost its steady rhythm. I did what I believed protected her stability. There it was again, her, Evan noticed, again. His eyes held hers, and what about mine? The question landed harder than anything else that night. Claire had no prepared answer for that. For a moment, the polished confidence that usually carried her through difficult conversations simply failed. Behind them, Daniel shifted slightly, but remained silent. This was no longer his moment. It belonged to the two people who had built 7 years of history on something that now felt dangerously unstable. Evan exhaled slowly. Here is what is going to happen next. Claire's shoulders tightened, because the tone had changed again. Less emotional now, more procedural. You are going to send the records within 48 hours. His voice was steady. Clear. I will have an independent review done. Not a threat, a plan. Claire's eyes flickered with something close to alarm. Evan. He held up a hand slightly, not aggressive, just enough to pause her. I am not making decisions tonight. The words surprised even him, because part of him wanted to. Part of him wanted to demand answers until the night broke open completely. But another part of him had started thinking ahead. About Lily. Always Lily. His voice lowered. But I am not staying in the dark anymore. Claire's composure had thinned to a fragile edge. You are overcorrecting, based on incomplete. Evan's gaze sharpened just enough to stop her. Do not. The word was quiet, but it landed. For the first time that evening, Claire actually fell silent without pushing back. Across the yard, someone quietly turned the music down another notch. The patio lights hummed softly overhead. Evan finally glanced towards Daniel. When he spoke, his tone was controlled but firm. I appreciate you bringing the report. Daniel gave a small nod. I never intended to create harm. Evan believed him. That made this somehow more complicated. He turned back to Claire. His voice came quieter now. More tired than angry. 7 years is a long time to carry uncertainty you never shared. Claire's eyes filled again. I was trying to hold things together. Evan's expression did not soften. You were holding them together for you. The truth in that sentence settled heavily into the warm night air. No one nearby even pretended to speak now. Claire finally looked away, just for a second. But in that second, the last piece of control she'd been clinging to slipped. Evan saw it, and he understood something clearly for the first time all night. The story she had managed for 7 years was no longer hers to control. The night air had cooled, but no one moved toward the heaters. No one wanted to break the fragile stillness that had settled over the backyard. Claire stood near the edge of the patio table, fingers curled lightly against the glass surface like she needed something solid to hold on to. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Not polished, not composed. Uncertain. Evan noticed. But the sharp satisfaction he might have felt years ago did not come. What filled his chest instead was heavier, complicated. 7 years does not unwind cleanly in a single night. Across the yard, Lily had finally drifted closer again, drawn by the quiet gravity pulling the adults into a tight circle. Inandi stopped a few steps away from Evan, small face tilted upward, waiting. Always waiting for him to make the world make sense. Evan felt that familiar ache press behind his ribs. He forced his shoulders to lower, forced his breathing to slow. When he spoke, his voice was no longer sharp, just tired. Claire, she looked up slowly. He held her gaze for a long moment before continuing. You should have trusted me enough to let me stand in the uncertainty with you. The sentence landed softly, but it cut deeper than anger. Claire's lips trembled slightly. I was afraid of what it would break. Honest. Finally, honest. Evan nodded once. I know, the quiet acceptance in his tone made her eyes fill again, because that was the part she had never fully calculated. Not the legal risk, not the social fallout. Him. His voice dropped lower. But you decided for me. Claire's shoulders sagged just slightly, a visible crack. Daniel remained respectfully silent a few steps back now, no longer at the center of the moment. This was where the real damage lived. Not in the report. Not in the numbers. In the years between them. Evan rubbed a hand slowly over the back of his neck. When he spoke again, his voice wavered just once. 7 years of being there for her. Not loud, not accusing, just real. Claire finally whispered, you were an incredible father. The word father hung in the air, fragile, dangerous. Evan's jaw tightened. For a second, emotion flickered across his face again, raw, unfiltered. Then he exhaled slowly. None of this changes how I showed up for her. There it was. The line that shifted the emotional weight of the entire night. Claire's breath caught, because she heard what he was not saying. Not yet. Across the yard, Lily took 2 small steps forward until she was close enough to reach for his hand. She did. Her fingers slipped into his without hesitation. Warm, trusting, automatic. Evan looked down at her, and whatever sharp edge had been building in his chest softened just a fraction. He squeezed her hand gently. Then he straightened and looked back at Claire. His voice was calm again. but clearer than it had been all night. We are going to sort the facts. We are going to handle whatever comes next like adults. A small pause, but one thing is not up for debate. Claire's eyes lifted slowly. Evan's hand tightened gently around Lily's. I am not disappearing from her life because of paperwork. The words landed with quiet force. Final. Protective. Real. For the first time that night, something in Claire's expression broke completely. Not fear, not control. Something closer to relief mixed with regret, because she finally understood the part she'd been too afraid to test. Evan had never just been a line on a form. The party did not recover. Not really. Music still played softly through the patio speakers. Someone eventually relit the candles on the cake. A few guests drifted back into careful conversations. But the easy warmth from earlier in the evening was gone. Everyone could feel it. Some moments split a night clean in half. This had been one of them. Evan stood near the edge of the yard with Lily's small hand still wrapped firmly in his. She had not let go once since stepping beside him. That alone said more than any report ever could. Claire remained a few steps away, shoulders lower now, the perfect birthday hostess mask finally set aside. Up close, the strain around her eyes showed years of quiet decisions catching up all at once. No one spoke for a while, not until Lily tugged gently on Evan's hand. Are we still doing cake? The question was so normal it almost hurt. Evan looked down at her. For a second, the weight of the night pressed visibly across his face. Then he softened. Yeah, Bug. His voice was warm again. We are still doing cake. Relief flickered across Lily's expression like sunlight breaking through clouds. She gave his hand one firm squeeze before trotting carefully back toward the dessert table, already distracted by frosting and candles. Evan watched her go. Only when she was safely out of earshot did he turn back to Claire. His tone was calm, but there was no confusion left in it. You should have told me. Claire's eyes filled again, but this time she did not try to hide it. I know. 2 simple words. 7 years too late. Evan exhaled slowly, the breath leaving him like something heavy finally shifting position inside his chest. I am not making any decisions tonight. He had said it before, now it sounded final. Claire nodded faintly. Okay, the single word carried more exhaustion than resistance. Daniel stepped forward just slightly, careful not to intrude. If you need the full lab chain of custody, I can have it forwarded. Evan gave a small nod. Send it. No hostility, no gratitude either, just practical. Daniel seemed to understand and stepped back again, leaving the space where it belonged. Evan's gaze returned to Claire one last time. His voice came quieter now, but steady. Whatever the paperwork says, the last 7 years were real. The words landed with quiet weight. Claire's shoulders shook once, barely visible. I never wanted to take that from you. Evan studied her for a long moment. Then he said the one thing she clearly had not expected. You already did. Not cruel, not loud, just honest. The truth of it settled between them like something that could not be folded away again. Across the yard, someone began gathering plates. The birthday candles flickered back to life. Lily's laughter rose again, softer now, but still bright enough to cut through the heaviness. Life, stubbornly, was continuing. Evan finally stepped back. Physical distance this time, but not retreat. We will talk after the documents are reviewed, he said. Claire nodded slowly. I will send everything. For the first time all night, neither of them tried to control the ending of the conversation, because some things were already set in motion. Evan turned toward the dessert table. Halfway there, Lily spotted him and waved excitedly, frosting already smudged near the corner of her mouth. He felt the familiar pull in his chest again, but this time it came with something steadier underneath. Clarity. He crouched beside her as she launched into an urgent explanation about candle colors and who got the first slice. The backyard noise slowly returned around them. Careful, uneven, but moving forward. And for the first time that night, Evan allowed himself to breathe all the way out. Not because everything was fixed, not because the answers were finished, but because the next chapter would be written with the lights fully on. If this story made you feel something real, tell me in the comments what you would have done in Evan's place. And if you believe quiet truth always surfaces eventually, subscribe to FinalText for more stories that do not look away when life gets complicated.